हेलो।
हाँ मैं लाइव हूँ उस टाइम पे।
हाँ जी सर।
मैं लाइव हूँ यूट्यूब पे।
हाँ, मैं यूट्यूब पे ही ज्वाइन किया हुआ है सर, वो लिंक जो आपने मेल किया था ना।
हाँ बस वो 1 मिनट में मेरे ख्याल डिले रहता है ये।
हाँ हाँ, चलो मैं उस पे आ रहा हूँ, तो आप एक बार देख लेते हैं करके ना।
आप किस पे आ रहे हो?
मैं यूट्यूब पे ही आ रहा हूँ।
हाँ जी। हाँ बस वो 1 मिनट में मेरे ख्याल डिले रहता है।
हाँ, तो मैं उस पे आ रहा हूँ, तो आप एक बार
आप किस पे आ रहे हो?
मैं यूट्यूब पे ही आ रहा हूँ।
हाँ। हेलो। हेलो एवरीवन।
All right, hello everyone. Good morning. I still see people joining in. Let's wait for 2 more minutes, then we'll get started. Yeah, everyone, I'll answer to your queries in another few minutes, okay? Once we get started, when I brush up you all the things, what this ELC activity is all about, I'll answer all your questions. Don't worry, you'll be able to unmute yourself. Okay. So for now, just hold on. Right. So Raman sir and Sharad sir, I have made you the co-host as well, okay? So you people will be able to take control in case if there's a network issue over here.
Okay, sir.
All right. Good morning, everyone. We'll start now, and you people will be able to unmute yourself. Okay. So let's first of all tell me what this ELC activity is all about, and then we'll take up your questions, and then we'll get started. All right. So this ELC activity is all about experiential learning activity. You also call it as ELA activity, right? And in particular, this special activity is only dedicated for mobile app development. All right. Now, in your upcoming semesters, you'll see, few more activities that, of course, we'll not talk about right now. But yes, for this activity, we're going to tell you about what the mobile activity development is all about. Okay. Now, talking about the intention of this ELC activity, by any chance, is any one of you aware that how this ELC activity is different from the traditional class teachings, or for that matter, the practical work that you people do in your regular semester? So I'll repeat my question. My question is how this ELC activity is like completely different from your, regular semester subjects. Anyone? Yep. No one? Okay, let me start the recording as well. See, okay, I am getting some answers in the chat box. You guys can unmute yourself and speak. That's fine. No need to hesitate. Okay, so one of the most awesome answer that I heard is, sir, it is a Zoom meeting. Regular classes are in person. All right. Okay, it aims at project development to give an experience of the industry. Okay, implementation. Okay, what else? Okay, so let me just, okay, you can stop for a minute. Let me just, brief you what this ELC activity, how is it different? It is more practical. Yeah, correct. See, the point of ELC activity, see, in regular classes, what is there? You have a curriculum, right? So you have constraints that these are like 5 different units, 10 different units that you have to go through. And then, questions will be asked on top of it. Then you'll have your examinations in which you have to answer questions, whether in the form of sessionals or in the form of your MSTs, or it can be in the form of your ESTs, right? But as far as this ELC activity is concerned, we are not limiting you to any of these things. Now, what do I mean by that? So when you talk about ELC activity, right? So let's talk about this mobile app development for now. So if you talk about the current technologies that we have in the market, so you have Android Studio, then you have Flutter, then you have Visual Studio using Xamarin, then we have Expo Client in React Native I'm talking about, right? So there are so many different frameworks, different technologies which are available in order to support this mobile app development, and we do not expect to you to follow any of these frameworks. Like we are not restricting you to follow any of these frameworks. Rather, it's an open domain. You can follow any technology, any framework that you wish to, and proceed with it. Another very important difference is that in case of your regular studies, it's a guided approach, right? It's a supervised kind of approach wherein a teacher will tell you that, hey, this is the topic, and then we'll dive into it and we'll let you know. Then there are QA sessions, etc., etc. Whereas if you talk about experiential learning activity, it's all about experience, right? The very first word says that E for experience. Getting it? So no doubt we'll tell you about the software. So for example, we're gonna brief you about what an Android Studio is, how the project structure of a particular mobile application development looks like, what are the different pros and cons of it, and then finally we'll ask you to create assignment. We will talk about that assignment and the deliverables in a minute. Okay, and yeah, so I was saying about experiential learning activity. So you'll think of a problem, you'll try to implement that problem, and whenever you are blocked somewhere, you'll try to figure out the solution. Getting it? So you'll actually make your development proceed in an experiential manner. Fine. So Raman sir, would you like to add anything to it?
Yeah.
You are on mute, Raman sir.
Yes, students. So the main difference, as Dr. Vaibhav has already told you, that you are free to use any tool or any technology you want. And in addition to it, जो बेसिक डिफरेंस है आपके ELC एक्टिविटी में और जो दूसरी क्लासरूम टीचिंग है, कि वहां पर आप फैकल्टी आपको टीच करता है और आप उससे लर्न करते हो. इसमें आपको लर्न भी खुद करना है और जो प्रोजेक्ट होगा उसको बनाना भी खुद है. तो अपने एक्सपीरियंस से सीखना है. So this is all about.
Yeah. Any
Yes,
questions?
any questions?
And I mean, it's better if you unmute yourself and ask the question, because in the chat box there are like hundreds and thousands of messages which I'm seeing right now. So it's really not possible to follow up all those questions. So if you can just raise your hand or unmute yourself and ask, that will be great. Yes, please. Yeah, anyone? Any questions? Okay, so one question is, will it be a group activity or individual activity? Raman sir, would you like to answer that?
यस, आप इसको ग्रुप में कर सकते हो, लेकिन जो आपकी असाइनमेंट होगी वो आपको इंडिविजुअल ही देनी पड़ेगी। तो ग्रुप में आप अगर कोई एक्सटेंसिव ऐप बनाना चाहते हो तो बना लो, और लेकिन आपको जो ऐप सबमिट करनी होगी वो इंडिविजुअल ही करनी होगी। तो बेसिकली आप बोल सकते हो कि ये इंडिविजुअल एक्टिविटी है। ठीक है।
Okay, so now if you talk about deliverables, I'll tell you exactly how it will be and what it will be. Okay, so let me share my screen. Ignore these spelling mistakes, guys. Okay, so the very first deliverable will be a kind of project document. Okay, now this project document will be shared over LMS. Okay, and it will have different components like the design of your project, technical specifications in terms of software, right? Some relevant diagrams. Now it can be in the form of flowchart. It can be in the form of different UML diagrams. It can be anything. Okay, and about some of the literature review of that topic, like are there any existing solutions to the problems that you have thought of? If yes, then what are the different advantages and disadvantages of those problem statements, right? So basically it will be a very generic document, very easy document that you people can create. Okay, now second deliverable that will be asked is your actual mobile app. Okay, and finally third, the demo video. I mean, I'm talking about recording over here of the Thapar. All right, so these are like three deliverables. Now let me be very clear, we do not expect you to give us all these three things. It will be really good if you can give us all these three things, but yes, we do understand that whenever you are creating a mobile application, since you are new to this technology, so there can be lot many errors. You might not be able to fix all of them, or your mobile app can be partially working, so that is also fine. And worst case I'm talking, if let's say due to any reason your mobile app is not working, then at least if you give us this project document, that should help. All right, now this project
Vaibhav sir,
yeah,
please sir, 1 minute. So students are asking that why it is held between EST and sessionals. Please note that the last date of submission of this activity is 14th Feb. तो आपके EST के बाद होगा, तो उस चीज की आपको अभी टेंशन नहीं लेनी, आपको 1 month मिलेगा उसके बाद।
All right, so it will be after your ESTs. You don't have to worry about those things. I hope that answered your question. All right, yeah, so coming back to this deliverables, right? So this project document is definitely mandatory, right? It's a star. And obviously you have to try this mobile app development as well, and in case if you're blocked somewhere, then that's okay, but otherwise try to submit this mobile application along with the demo recording video as well. All right, is that clear? Yes or no? Now the question is, sir, what about the project? What project do we have to submit? So project can be an open-ended problem. All right. So we are not restricting you to any technology, any problem. It can be any problem that you can think of. It can be, relevant to your daily routines in terms of your hostel life. Let's say if you want to register a complaint that, your fan is not working, or there is something which you need, you can always, have a mobile app for the same. Let's say if you want to create a mobile app for any, medical related domain, you are free to do that as well. So it can be like literally any problem that you can think of. Okay. Clear? So Balbir asked me this question.
Dr. Vaibhav.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to add something to you.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Yeah, students, actually, I'm Dr. Sharad Saxena from the department. So I just want to add to the content that is shared by Dr. Vaibhav. See, this objective of this application development is not to make you a developer. The objective is simply to make a kind of investigative approach. We want to develop a kind of investigative approach among the students so that you can become a very good engineer in future, right? So right now you are working with number of applications on a smartphone, right? So everybody, I think, is aware of what is an app, how they're working, and sometimes you found that there is some problem in existing application, right? So you can identify that problem also. Like sometime I think there is a WhatsApp application working on my cell phone, and there should be one application, one small code should be there within the WhatsApp application that can make some changes. Okay, so you can suggest those changes as well in your application as a document, right? And you can design a demo kind of WhatsApp application, small application, not the big one. Okay, so the overall objective of ELC is to make a good engineer, and the practices, how to explore it, how to investigate it, what are the lacunas in the existing applications, what you can amend, what you can change. Okay, so this is the objective. Okay, thank you, Dr. Vaibhav. Please continue.
Sharad sir, also if you can just brief about whether there are some marks associated with it, certificate, awards, that kind of.
Yeah, actually, ELC is basically designed to just to generate some kind of you can say innovative ideas among the students only, right? So it is not like a credit score, or it does not has any kind of marking scheme within this ELC activity, but this is a kind of mandatory activity, and every student has to perform at least 5 activities during this BTech course, right? So we are not giving any kind of marks to the students, but we will provide some kind of grading, like good, average, poor, best, and like that. And based on that, you will get your certification immediately once you submit your document on LMS. So you will get a certificate of completion of ELC that you can download from LMS account itself. Okay, I think I have answered your question.
Yep, thank you, sir. And a few more questions that are there right now. Ki, sir, I want to ask which development is more preferred, iOS versus Android. It's completely up to you. If let's say you want to follow that line of iOS, go ahead with that Apple thing. And if let's say you are targeting your app, if you are like more I would say inclined towards Android development, go with that approach, right? And if let's say you are completely new, you have absolutely no idea about mobile app development, then I would say go with Android. Reason being, you will find more online resources, online help with this Android development. All right. But again, there's no restriction to it. It's completely up to you which thing you want to go ahead.
Yes. And one more thing is that there are a number of open forums available, right, on website. So some of the good companies are offering open challenges to the students of different communities of the engineering. So you can accept one of the challenge from these company website, and you can design application based on that also. So that will also be considered as a part of the ELC, right? Thank you.
Yeah, and there's one very interesting question which Sparsh, what is his full name? Sparsh Rastogi. So Sparsh Rastogi is asking me that whether we will be able to retain some copyrights over our product or not. So Sparsh, we can talk about this offline. So basically, the idea of having this ELC activity is to demo a very, very, I would say, decent app, but an enterprise level app, we are definitely not expecting. But if let's say you have some prior experience in your mobile application development and you want to, create an enterprise level application, then definitely we can think on those similar lines as well. Okay, and we can have that discussion offline. But the intention of having this ELC activity is to learn And as people mentioned, that you should be able to think of a problem statement, how to approach to a particular solution, how to create a design of it, and finally how to implement it and test it. All right, so that's what the intention is, to create a decent app, but definitely not an enterprise level application. All right. I mean, there are another few tons of questions. So if you guys can raise your hand, I mean, not raise your hand, just unmute yourself and ask me. That should help our team. Yes, please unmute yourself and ask. No questions? I hope you people can unmute yourself.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, I'm just asking if we have to consult some faculty. So can you tell us, or do we have to just do it on our own?
No, that's what experiential learning activity. So you have to develop, based out of your experience.
Can we not consult you or anyone else? As the
I don't think so, because that's what the spirit of this ELC activity is all about. So if, let's say, you are consulting to any other faculty, that's again something similar to your classroom teaching, that you will come up with a problem, come up with a blocker, we'll look for a solution, we'll fix it, you will proceed. So it's more or less like your lab work only.
Okay, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, I want to ask that do it constitutes to any final weightage of marks in finals, or it just a side-by-side activity?
So that's what I mean. Sharad sir already answered that question, but let me just repeat that once more. So in totality, you have to do, sir, how many? 4 or 5 activities?
Sir, actually, as per the new notification, all 5 activities are mandatory for the students.
Yeah. So basically, in your entire graduation, you have to undergo 5 ELC activities, right? And there will be no grading, there will be no credit which will be assigned to it, but definitely there will be some sort of grade, some sort of categories in terms of good, average, and best. Okay, and without undergoing these activities, ELC activities, I don't think you will be able to get your degree, right? So it's a kind of mandate. But yes, again, no credit score assigned to it. I hope that answered your question.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Where can we find the open company challenges you just spoke about?
Just Google it, you will find it. Okay, there are n number of forums which are available.
Sir, good morning, sir. Tell some targeted resource to learn this app development.
No, again, sky is the limit. Okay, so definitely we'll walk you through a few of the resources that we have handy right now. But again, you are free to explore this entire universe. Okay?
Sir,
there's no end to it. Yeah.
Sir, do we have any collaborative educational website where we can find courses for this app development?
You can go for Coursera, and then again, you can go for. We have something called as Green Tree. I don't remember that what exactly, but yes, Coursera offers you great courses, and of course Udemy. But I do understand that Udemy is a paid version, but I think you can go for Coursera.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and nowadays, you just Google it, you will find n number of resources. That's not a problem. So these kind of questions used to come up like 10 years before. Okay, sir, where do we find this? Where do we find that? Now, the entire resources are at your foot.
Yeah, actually, YouTube is a big resource for it.
Yeah.
So students can explore different YouTube videos, right?
Yeah. Yes, one more thing to add. Many students are asking how we can learn. See, to build a simple app, you will hardly, I think you have to take about 1 hour or 2 hours. So it's not a big problem. So you have to submit. First document is like in deliverables. The first document is necessary. Second and third are desired. Okay. So I think it's a very simple activity. So all can do it very easily.
And anyways, in another few minutes, we will be starting with our technical discussions wherein, I'll be walking you through the entire mobile app development using Android Studio. So that will be like a good start for you guys. Okay. So we'll see how we
Vaibhav, sir, I think we can start with the technical part now.
Sir,
Okay. So last 2 questions.
sir, in what language we have to make our app?
Any language.
Okay. So would we be submitting that design of your project and technical specification?
So that what do you call it? Format we'll upload on LMS of that entire technical document specification. So just go through that format and submit that accordingly. And that submission also will be on LMS only.
Look, last date is 14th Feb. So in the next week, we will upload all the necessary documents and the sample documents as well.
Sir, now format is not visible on the LMS.
No, it will be. It will be. As
It
of
will
now,
be.
It's not there. All right.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I have two questions. Firstly, like in this actual mobile app, do you mean like the final executable version, like in case of Android.apk or also the source?
.apk. Source is not required. .apk will work for us. Okay.
Okay.
But again, to make sure that that APK is coming right away from you only, it's not a downloaded version. Make sure that when you are executing that application, it should have your name, roll number. Let's say if you are entering Sparsh Rastogi somewhere, so that will be obviously a very strong hint that this is something which you have developed. All
okay.
Right?
Or sir, can we do another thing, like could we host it on any public platform and give you the executable link for that, like on
that can help.
Something like
that can help, but again, we want to keep this submission thing homogeneous for each and every student. So don't go with that approach. Simply just so that submission detail, anyways, those instructions I'll upload on LMS. So it will be basically a zip folder in which you can zip all these three and upload over there.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So when you have this LMS facility, why to go by that route? All right. And yes, we are recording this. And yeah, any other questions before I start? All right, everyone. Give me a minute. I'm sharing the screen. I hope you can see this installation piece. Raman sir, you are able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. So basically, if you have to start development, go to this developer.android.com/studio, right? So it will ask you to download this Android Studio. And depending on your operating system, whether you are a Linux user, a Mac user, or a Windows user, go ahead with the relevant studio file, download it and install it, right? So installation is like pretty straightforward. All you have to do is just click on next, done. Okay, so let me just forward that. So over here you will see these different executables, zip file for Windows 64-bit. So go ahead and download the relevant version and install it. So for example, I have Windows, so I'll obviously download windows.exe. Okay, so just download, click on yes, next, it will be downloaded, install it and done. Now, one important thing which I would like to highlight over here is that when you are actually installing this software, make sure that you are installing that in your default drive, which is our C drive. Okay, although it's not a mandate. I know probably few of you must have lost some space in your C drive. Your space might be full over there, but again, try to free up some space and install it in your root directory. Reason being, if let's say you are trying to develop a complex application, then sometimes you have to set the environment variables, you have to set a number of paths in order to make a particular thing work, right? So it's always the best idea to have it installed in your C drive so that you can get rid of all those nasty things. Okay, so I'm just installing that in my C drive. Click on next, install, and done. Okay, so there's one screen over here. I'll just pause it. So if you see over here, once your installation is done, if let's say Android Studio is like already installed on your machine, so it will ask if you want to import any of the settings from the previous version. And if let's say it's a new version, all you have to do is just check on this radio button called as do not import settings, and then it will install the fresh Android Studio for you. Okay, so Android Studio is basically a software which we use to develop our mobile application. All right, so these are some of the old directories which I had to eventually delete from my machine. Okay, so installation is like pretty straightforward. Just download, click on next, choose standard, and finish. All right, and then you have to choose this, start a new Android project. Okay, let me reshare my screen again. Any questions, anyone? Any questions? You people should be able to unmute yourself.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there any specific language that is recommended for the app development, or we can do it in
No,
like any
again,
language?
again, any language. But yes, Java and Kotlin are the most famous ones. Okay.
Yes,
So
sir. I
as
was
far
basically
yes,
preferring Kotlin.
yeah, you can go with that, not a problem. And as far as this Android Studio is concerned, it gives a very good support for Java as well as Kotlin both.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah.
Sir, can
Yeah, sorry, somebody was asking a question. Go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
Vaibhav sir, you can continue. I think I will answer in the chat.
All right, sir. Makes sense.
Please ask me in chat.
And even towards the end of the session, when we are done with this discussion and everything, you people can ask at that point of time as well. That's fine. All right, let's continue. So now that we have installed, the Android Studio, the next thing is how a project structure will look like, right? So any modern software that you install nowadays, you just create you just choose a project structure, and there are some pre-built files, pre-built folders that are automatically there for your help. So you can just use those and start coding in those resources which are readily available for you. So let me just walk you through all those project structure folders as well. Right. So as I told you, we'll start with this. Start a new Android project. And then this is like the activity page. Now, what is an activity in mobile app development? We'll talk about it in a few more minutes. Okay. So I for now choose an empty activity, give a relevant name to it and a package name. And below you can see the language as well, right? Where it says Kotlin. So I think Amreen was asking the same, sir, which language we have to choose. So for now, for the demonstration perspective, we're gonna choose the Java language over here. But again, you can go with Kotlin also. And below you will see this minimum SDK version. So generally I prefer choosing API level 15 because that will actually support my 100% of the devices, right? Because I cannot find those old devices which used to support this version, APK version 13, 14, and 15. So 15 is the one that you should go ahead with. But if let's say you are using some the latest smartphone, then you can choose a higher version as well. Okay. So, but for now, this project will support minimum APK 15 and of course, the latest ones as well. So anything 15 or 15 plus. Okay. So now talking about this project, on the left-hand side, if you see, we have this entire project explorer, wherein you are seeing this app, manifest, Java, and then that Gradle script. Okay. So let's talk about this Gradle script first of all. So I hope you are seeing that build.gradle project hello world, then build.gradle module app. And okay, before that, do you see this tools SDK manager? So sometimes what happens, let me just pause over here. Let's say if you created a blank project, right? There are certain components which are loaded on the fly when you are creating this project. But chances are that you might see, a few of the errors while you are creating your project from the scratch for the first time. All right. So in that case, you just have to go to this menu, and then over here you will find this option called as apply. So choose the relevant Android. So for example, I am choosing 4.0.3, right? And then the moment you click on apply, it will actually reload the entire components, and those compilation error will go away. Okay. Fine. Now talking about this Gradle scripts, and this is about rebuilding a project. So you have this build option over there. Once you have downloaded all the things, you can simply click on rebuild, and your all the errors will be gone. Okay. So let me just go ahead. All right. So these Gradle scripts that you are seeing, basically they will contain your mobile app level configurations. Okay, so for example, internally this project is using so many different jar files. Jar files is nothing but the files which are used by your Java language. Okay, so on your left, you can always ask, sir, we have two Gradle scripts. One is build.gradle project level, and second one again with the same name, build.gradle. So what's the difference? So the difference between these two Gradle files is one is at your project level, and the second Gradle file is at the module level. All right. So inside one project, we can have multiple modules. I'll just repeat. So inside one project, we can have multiple modules. All right. So if let's say you have to make any configuration changes, any dependency related changes in one particular module, we make those changes in build.gradle, which is your module level Gradle file. And if let's say you have to make some dependency level changes, updates at a project level, so you make those changes in build.gradle, which is at the project level. All right. So generally, when you are creating a project, you don't really have to mess with these Gradle files. But yes, if let's say you are developing an enterprise level application and you are using third-party JDK files and all that stuff, external dependencies, then yes, you have to add those dependencies with your Gradle script. But generally talking, right now when you will be going ahead with this ELC activity, you don't really have to manipulate all these Gradle files. So let it be as it is. Okay, going ahead. Okay. Now in this app, you are seeing these multiple folders, right? Manifest, Java, and then Java generated. So ignore Java generated. That's not required. But if I expand this Java over here, you'll see our project that we created, right? So we have com.example.hello world. Then similarly, we have two others, and in the bracket is written Android test and test. So basically, these are the projects that we use in order to automate our test cases. All right. So for now, that is not the intention. We don't have to go in that testing route. So we'll just go ahead and expand this com.example.hello world, which is generally used by the developers. And over there, whatever code that we have to inject, we'll inject in the files in this particular folder. Okay. So I'll repeat, this Android test and test projects folders, you don't have to touch. Rather, whatever code level changes that you have to make, just go ahead and make that in com.example.hello world. All right. Now, in this folder, we have something called as main activity. So I'll just talk about what this main activity is in a few more minutes. But let me just walk you through this entire project structure for now. So you have one more folder over here called as this resources folder, right? RES, if you can see. In this resources folder, we have this drawable, layout, MIP map, and then values folder. So we're gonna use these values folder and layout folder for now. In case if you are wondering what this resources folder is, so this resources folder basically we'll be adding more activities to it, and then we'll be let's say using some of the CSS. CSS means your cascading style sheets, basically the style related things. So all those things you can just dump it in this resources folder and use it, in your main project. Okay, so over here, if you see in this resources folder, we have the layout folder, right? And this layout folder is having one file called as activity_main.xml. And in case if you notice it minutely, you'll see that this name is somewhat similar to this name, main activity. Okay, so yes, if you are adding an activity yourself, then make sure that in the layout you are adding the corresponding XML file. And anyways, this Android Studio will do that automatically for you. But in case if it doesn't, and you have to manually create under some circumstances, then make sure that this name is exactly following the same pattern. If let's say my name is main activity, so your layout name will be activity_main.xml file. All right. Now, what's the difference between these two files? Let's discuss that first of all. So your main activity.java, which you are seeing right now, that is basically your code level file. Okay. So tomorrow, let's say if I have to add a button and I want that on click of that button, something should happen. So where will I write that code? I will write that code in this .java file. All that logic we're gonna write in this Java file, the code file. All right. But adding that button on my mobile screen, how will I do that? I will do that in my layout file. Are you getting it? So adding a button on my UI is nothing but your user interface. So if I'm adding a button on your user interface, that is something which I'll do in this activity_main.xml file, basically my layout folder. And if let's say I want to add a code level change to it, that what should happen on click of that button, those kind of code level changes, we'll make that in main activity.java. All right. Now, okay, let me just brief you that as well. I have been talking about activity. So let's first of all discuss what that activity is. So if you open a website, right? If you open any website for that matter, what is the first thing that you see in a website? It's a simple web page, right? So web page is basically the smallest entity, or I would say a basic unit of your web development. Okay. Similarly, if I move this discussion to our mobile application development, you open any mobile app, what is the first thing that you see? A screen with some UI elements. Probably it can be a registration form, it can be a login screen, or let's say if you are using WhatsApp, right? What is the first screen that you see? The chats. Okay, so that screen which you are seeing on your mobile app is nothing but an activity. All right, so the screen which a normal user sees is nothing but an activity in terms of technical language. All right, so if let's say I ask you how many activities do you see in WhatsApp, what will be your answer? So generally we see 3 activities. One is your chats, second one we have status, and third one we have calls. Right, so those are 3 different activities. Activities is nothing but similar to the pages that we have in our in our web universe. All right, so we are talking about main activity.java. So that is the first activity that will be loaded once you run this code. I hope that activity is clear. Now let's talk about this XML file. So it's a design file, as I told you. So right now this hello world that you are seeing, it's nothing but a text view. All right, so you have multiple UI elements available, in this mobile app development. So one is your text view, then we have buttons, then you will be having, we can add the switches. Then switches is nothing but that toggle thing, right? On off. Then we can add checkboxes, radio buttons. All right, so right now you are seeing a text view on your screens. Fine. So at the top, if you see over here, we have this split and design, right? So if you click on design, you will see the design level things of this XML file. But if you want to see the code behind this UI, you click on that, top right, just this code menu over here. Okay, so this will tell you the corresponding code behind it. Okay, so let me just rerun that again. So this is your text view in the design view. And if you click on that code, you will see, the text view, which we just added over here. Okay. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. All right, so that's a text view. All right, let's go ahead. Yeah, now comes this manifest file. Again, a very important file. I hope everyone can see this. Inside app, we have manifest folder, and then we have Android manifest.xml, right? So this manifest file, it actually, holds your different configurations. Now, that Gradle script, it used to have your external dependencies. Whereas if you talk about configurations, this Android manifest.xml is a place where, we have all those configurations. So for example, tomorrow, let's say if I have to add one more activity to my project, so I have to add that activity in this XML file as well, in this manifest file as well. Okay. Similarly, let's say I want to use Google Maps. So what will I do? I will try to, add those Google Maps. I'll try to embed those Google Maps in my mobile application development. So again, you have to make, manifest level changes over there. Okay. All right. So right now, we have not developed even a single thing. I'm just briefing you about what this Android Studio is all about and how this project structure looks like. Fine. So that was about it. Any questions, anyone? Any questions? You can unmute yourself. I'll just give you 1 minute to ask it. Any questions? Yes, please, you can unmute yourself and ask. Okay, I'll take that as no. So I'll just repeat what we just did. So we installed our Android Studio. Then we created a basic project structure, a blank activity. Somebody is saying something. Attendance form not opening. Anshu sir, are you there? Let me make you the co-host.
Attendance form will be opened in 10 minutes.
So Anshu sir, I have make you the co-host. You will be able to mute and mute. All right. So Raman sir, as he said, attendance will be available in another 10 minutes. Okay, so I was telling about that we have completed the installation part and the basic project structure as well. Now let's talk about how do we execute the default project that is given by the Android Studio DB. So we have the concept of something called as emulators. All right. So what are emulators? Emulators are nothing but a piece of software which you use in order to see the output. All right. So not every time we can have physical devices available. Are you getting it? So for example, if let's say I am developing an application or which is to be used in my aircrafts, my aeroplanes. Do you think I'll actually install that? Go ahead, go to SpiceJet and other airlines and ask them to, hey, please give me your aeroplane. I want to install my software over there. I won't, right? I won't do that. So whatever software that I have developed, first of all, I'll try installing and running that, executing that software on an virtual device. So that virtual device is nothing but your emulator, or sometimes you call it simulators in more complex environment. All right. So now I'll be showcasing you how we can install that emulator on your Android Studio. And of course, I'll be telling you how we can actually run your mobile application on the physical mobile phone as well. But for now, we will stick our discussion to this emulators. So the next thing coming up is how do you install emulator? So open your Android Studio and then go to this menu, click on tools, and here you see, right, AVD manager, which is your Android virtual device manager. So click on this AVD manager. So it will open this virtual devices panel for you. So I already have this installed on my machine, so it's showing up for me, but for you it will be blank. So you have to click on that create virtual device, and then you can choose any of these virtual devices that you feel like installing. All right, so you have n number of virtual devices which Android Studio gives you. Choose any one of them and then just go ahead and install it. Right, so it's a kind of emulator virtual device that we are AVD, Android virtual device that we are installing right now. Again, the installation part is pretty simple. You just have to choose a device and then click on this Android version, which Android version you want to go ahead with, whether it is like the API level 22 Lollipop or it's Marshmallow, Nougat, Oreo. So choose any one of them and then click on next, finish. Name it. And by default, you see this startup orientation. So you have two options over there, right? Portrait and landscape. So let it be portrait. So basically the significance of having this is that if let's say you are starting your, if you are executing your mobile application, by default, it will be in a portrait mode, right? So I want that when my activity, when my mobile app is launched, by default, it should open in portrait mode. Okay. So just click on finish. It will add up this Android device over here, and then you can choose this whenever you are running your mobile app. Again, a very straightforward process. Now over here you see this run menu, right? So click on this run, and then you can choose this run app. So click on this run app, and it will load the default Hello World app for you, which is created by again the Android Studio. So till now we have not even written a single line of statement, single code. So you just run it. It will take some time because for the very first time it was being run. So when you are running it for the first time, it will take time to load. And this is how your Android emulator will look like. Okay. It will have Hello World. So it will give you the same look and feel the way you have it in your Android phones. Okay. So this is your Hello World default application. All right. Any questions? You can unmute yourselves. Any questions till now, anyone? Okay, let's proceed. Fine. Now we are, ready to start with our actual coding stuff. So we have created a blank project for now, and let's see how we can, make customizations to it. Let me share my screen again. I hope it's visible. So you open main activity.java, right? And inside this, we have this, activity main XML file, which is my layout file. I hope you remember, I told you that we can add UI components in this. So it can be like, the buttons, the text boxes, then radio buttons, check boxes, switches, different scroll views and whatnot. So we can add literally any of the widgets that we use in our daily lives. Okay, so, and then we have so many different layouts which are available to us. By default, this Android Studio will have this constraint layout, but then there are multiple layouts which are available. So one is your constraint layout, then we have grid layout, then you have linear layout, relative layout, etc. Okay, and all those layouts, they come up with some default behavior associated with them. So for now, let's stick to this constraint layout. So you have this text view by default, right? Just click on this text view and you see these zigzag arrows, right, at top, right, bottom, and left. So basically I have, so assume it to be a kind of strings. So I have basically attached the strings to this hello world text box. And since I have attached, left, right, bottom, left, so that's the reason you are seeing that in the center. If you want to increase and decrease the size of it, you can, just drag and drop it. Drag and drop it in the sense like you can just, expand it and collapse it. So it will accordingly adjust its size. And then finally talking about these strings. So I have attached it to top, left, bottom, and right. And if let's say, I attached it on the right side, if I remove the string on the right side, obviously that's going to move to the left side, right? So let me just go ahead and attach it again, and it will make this hello world in the center. Okay. Similarly, let's say if I remove the string at the top, it will move this hello world at the bottom. All right. So we can definitely control it with the help of code as well, but that is something which is given by Android Studio. So why not use it? So now I have deleted the text view, and from here our actual coding is starting. So I'm just dragging and dropping two buttons right now. So I just drag and dropped it, and this is the button. I'll keep it at the top center, and the below button I'll move it to the bottom center. Right. So again, attach it to the bottom, and then let's edit the text inside it. So on the right hand side, you will see this attributes panel over here. Right? This is your attributes panel. So if let's say you want to change the color of these buttons, you want to change the size of these buttons, you want to give a different ID to it, you can always make that in this attributes panel. Right. So again, if let's say, so right now, see, let me just pause. So right now this button is big enough to hold this text BUTTON. But let's say if my text expands, instead of button, I have, let's say, Thapar University button. So obviously, the size of this button will increase automatically. Why? Because this is, something which we have used over here by default, which is your, what do you call it? The width specific, right? As in when the size of the text increases, the width of the button will increase automatically. All right. And if let's say you want to span this entire button on your mobile app, so just remove those, arrows. Just click on these arrows on the right hand side, and it will do the stuff for you. Okay. So just pay attention over here. Let's say if I click on this, yeah, now you see that button, right? It is expanded. All right. But if let's say you want to make it specific to the text, so better to have it by default. Okay. So that's a constraint layout. So it will wrap up the text inside it. Let's go ahead. Okay. Forward it. Now on your right hand side, do you see this ID over here? So this ID is very important, guys. So I'll give a relevant ID to this button. I'll say it as button_toast. So before I proceed with this demonstration, let me tell you what exactly we are trying to achieve. So that will help you to understand things better. Now, we have added two buttons, right? One button at the top and one button at the bottom. So the idea behind dragging and dropping this button and having this button in my project is that the moment I click on the button at the top, it will give me a kind of alert box. All right. So alert box in case of, you know, your Android world, in your mobile application development world, that is called as a toast. All right. So you click on that button, it will give you a toast, a kind of alert. Getting it? Similarly, if I click on the bottommost button, it will tell me the count, how many times I have clicked on it, right? So I'm creating a simple app. That app will have two buttons. If I click on the button at the top, it will give me an alert box. And if I click on the button which is at the bottom, so it will tell me how many times I have clicked on that button, right? So if you click on the button at the bottom, it will say 1. You click it one more time, it will say 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, as many times as you click on that button. Okay. So that is the end goal of, you know, having this particular activity and, you know, dragging and dropping these buttons, having it in our mobile app. All right. Now coming back to this ID. So when I click on this button, how will be, so right now we have multiple buttons on my mobile app, right? So how in the world will I come to know which button I have clicked? If let's say I drag and drop 50 more buttons, how will my program knows that which button I have clicked? Because at the end of the day, all buttons are similar. Okay, so there is something called as IDs. So IDs are unique to a particular button. All right. So with the help of that ID, I'll again repeat, IDs are unique to any particular, not only button, to any UI element. No two UI elements can have same IDs. All right. So ID is like a unique identifier to a particular UI element. All right, which help us to access that particular UI element programmatically. Okay, so right now I am giving an ID to this upper button called as button_toast, and I'll be just, you know, giving some background color and manipulating the text inside it. So you can make use of this attributes panel over here. So I just said that the text should be toast. Give a color to the text as well. So it should be like white color. #FFF is a hexadecimal representation of white. And then the bottom button, I'm renaming it to count. Give a relevant ID, say button_count. All right, and then I'll introduce one text view as well, which will show me the count of, you know, how many times I have clicked on that button. Okay, so here is my text view. I just added this text view. I am moving it to the center. Again, with the help of those strings, you give a relevant ID to this. And by default, you know, the text should be 0 because right now user has not clicked anything. It's a 0 count. How many times I have clicked on the button? 0 times. Then let's give a font size to it, 160. And then there are some, you know, layout level changes which I'm doing over here, width and height basically. And I'm moving it to the center, right? So gravity center. Now, let me pause. Do you see something on the left? There's a warning, right, which this Android Studio is giving us. It says, it gives me 3 basically warnings. One is on button toast. Then we have it on button_count, and then finally on show count. All right. So basically, these are the warnings which are indicating that somewhere in my code I have hard coded things. All right. So if you see this 0 and this toast and this count text, they are something which I have written in my attributes panel. But in reality, what are best coding practices that all these strings, all these hard-coded strings that I'm using in my project, they should come from a particular resource. They should come from one single source of truth. So what I'll do, even if you run it in this manner, it will work perfectly fine because warnings never ever interrupts with your execution. But again, it's a good idea. It's a hygiene that you should follow, not to have any warnings in your project. Okay, so I'll just get rid of these warnings. So what I'll do, I'll move this text called as toast, this count, and this text 0 to a file in my resources file, and I'll pick values from there. So that is what I'll be doing right now. Okay, so it says hard-coded string toast should be used in the string resources. So let's move it to that. So you go to the code behind this UI, and over here you see this, right? Android text is equal to toast, Android text is equal to count, then Android text is equal to 0. So just hover on it and click on that string resource. So it will automatically create that string resource for you. Okay, so just click on that and give the name of that resource. Let's say count underscore initial value. Click on OK. So it created that count underscore initial value in my resources folder, and similarly repeat the same steps for the other two as well. Name it as button underscore toast label. And now if I hover on this values folder, you see these three things, right, in my strings.xml. The three basically strings that you just now created: count underscore initial value 0, button count label count, and then this name button count toast underscore label toast. All right. So now instead of hard coding it in my UI, I'll actually pick up these values from my values folder. Okay, so that will fix my warning. And if let's say I want to add anything new, I can write it in this way as well. So I'll simply say string name is equal to toast message hello toast. So whenever that toast message will come in front of your screens, that alert box I'm talking about, this is a message that you want to see from that. Right, so I'll click on the button at the top and it will show me this toast message. Okay, let's proceed. So now I am adding an event to it, another very important thing. See, till now we have created the UI, right? When I say created the UI, I mean we have drag and drop the buttons. We have manipulated its CSS properties. I mean, CSS means the styling thing, that the background color should be blue, the text should be of so and so color, the text should be 0, it should be like, let's say count, then hello toast, etc., etc. Now this was all about UI. Now let's talk about the code behind it. If let's say I click on that button, I want an event to be fired, right? So if I click on that button, something should happen. So where that particular event will be fired, what is the method that I'm going to create is something which this onClick attribute will give you. So the moment you say Android onClick is equal to something, that method will be called. So I'm basically binding this onClick event. All right. So right now I am saying in this button toast, onClick is equal to show toast. So basically it will create a show toast method in my main activity.java, and whatever thing that I want to do on the click of that button, I'll write in that method called as show toast. All right. So click on that bulb and say create show toast in main activity. So it will create this method called as show toast in my main activity.java, and then we'll code it over here. All right. So here's your main activity.java. Getting it? And it has created this show toast method, and we'll write our logic inside that. So similarly, let's add few more events. So I'll add one more event in the below button. I'll say count up. Right now inside this, I'll write my logic to show that alert box and increase that counter variable. So I'll create an object of toast class. Right? And for that, you have to import one package called as android.widget.toast. In case even if you miss importing it, this Android Studio will show you what the error. So you just click on that error, it will automatically import it for you. All right. And then there's a method called as make text. So I'll say toast.makeText. And this will actually make my alert box. And the first argument to this method is the message that you want to pass. And the second argument is for how much time. All right. So this toast.length underscore long is a kind of enumeration. Okay. And yeah, my bad. So the first argument that this make text method takes is this pointer. So this is basically the current context. And then I'll say toast.show. All right. So now understand what will happen actually. You'll click on that button, and on that button we have binded this show toast method. So the moment you click on that button, onClick method will be invoked, and inside this onClick event we have written this show toast method. So it will call this show toast method, and inside this show toast method, what we are doing, we are simply showing this alert box kind of thing. All right. Similarly, we'll write our logic in countup also. So we'll create an object of text view class. So initially my count value is 0, right? So I'm taking a value called as mCount, mobile count equal to 0. And every time the user click on that button, I'll increase this value. And simply I'll, spit out this value. I'll dump this value on the text view. So let's create a text view object. And now the next step is very important. Pay attention. So over here, I'll say find view by ID. I'll tell you what exactly I'm trying to do over here. Let me just first complete it, then I'll tell you what exactly we have done. All right, let me pause. Now see, this on create method that you are seeing in line number 15. So this method is like created by default whenever you will create a blank project. Okay, so that initial hello world that you were seeing on this Android emulator, the virtual device, that was before because of this on create method. So basically this on create method bundles all your configurations and it launches your mobile app. All right, now this is a first method that is like always invoked. Okay, so now initially I took a variable called as mcount is equal to 0, and every time I click on the button I'm incrementing that value by 1. All right, so whenever you will click on that button, this mcount will become 1 for the first time, and we are saying tv.settext 1, so you will see 1 on that output. Second time I click on that button, this value will become 2. Third time I click on that button, this value will become 3, right? And that is what you will see on your output screens on your mobile app basically. All right, and where is that thing which I'm showcasing right now? I'm showcasing that on my text view. Okay, now line number 18 is very, very important. You cannot create a mobile app without understanding this line number 18. So in line number 18, what exactly I'm trying to do? I said find view by ID, r.id underscore show count, show underscore count, sorry. Okay, so remember I told you that every UI element will have a unique ID associated with it, right? And for that particular text view, we gave this ID called as show underscore count. All right, so now programmatically I'm trying to access the text view, and when I said find view by ID, and I gave this r.id.show underscore count. R means resources.id.show underscore count. So it will basically start pointing to that text view whose reference I am storing in my variable called as TV. Not variable, I should call it as object. So TV is like object of text view class. All right. So now this TV is basically pointed in at a very uber level, in a rough language, if I have to say, this variable TV is now pointing to that text box, that text view. All right. So when you say tv.setText, you are actually setting text to the text view. All right. So let's proceed. So I'll run this on my emulator. So click on that green button. It will launch your emulator. And in this emulator, yeah, this is how your final screen will look like. All right, so we have 2 buttons over there. One is toast, one is count. Right, so do observe carefully when I click on toast, what happens. So I'll click on toast, and there you go. Are you seeing this alert, hello toast, at the bottom? Right, so it's a kind of notification that you are seeing right now, alert. So you click on toast, again it will show you hello toast message. All right, and this is the message that you hard coded previously and then moved it to this strings.xml. All right, and now let's click on this button, count. So this variable becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as in when I'm clicking on that. All right, so let me just replay that again. So toast, it will say hello toast. Then you click on count, count, count. It will increment the value of that integer and it will bind it with that text box. All right. So that was like one very basic app that we had. So I'll just take a pause for 2 minutes in case if somebody wants to ask any question, please go ahead. You people should be able to unmute yourself. Yeah, any questions before we move on?
So what is the meaning of that R dot, that R you use before the text view?
Nothing. So basically it signifies that you are using a method ID in your R class. So R is like for resources. All right. So we just added one resource, right, which is nothing but a button and a text view. So when you say, so whenever you have to basically access any UI element with the help of ID, you always use this r.id dot followed by that ID name, that whatever you have given over there.
Okay, sir. So, so basically we added the count to the text view, and that text view was showcasing on our app where we added that string.
Yes, yes. Right. So
okay,
just to refine this thing, what you have said, I mean, I know you understood it, but you just spoke that in a different way. So we have added a text view in our mobile app, right? In that layout XML file. And initially the value, the default value is 0, right? And that's what we were seeing. And whenever I'm clicking on that button, that counter variable is increasing by 1, and we are binding that value to the text view with the help of that ID, right? We are accessing that text view with the help of that, r.id.text view.
Okay, sir.
All right?
Thank you, sir.
All right, Vivek. Yeah, any other questions? And Raman sir has pinged you, the attendance link as well. Raman sir, you want to say something about the attendance?
Yes, attendance link is on. Please log in with your Thapar ID only.
And you want to say something for people who are on YouTube as well?
Yes, students are asking that we do not know any language. So how can we do it? See,
okay.
We require only a simple app from you, not complex app, or even you can submit the document only, not even the app. But in that case, you will not be learning anything. So it's better to make a simple app. We will provide you this recording also. We will share some online links. By replicating those links, by replicating the steps mentioned on those links, you can easily make a app. It will hardly take you 2 to 3 hours. So please do not panic and join this activity as a fun, not as a fear or because
don't take it as a burden.
Yes, this activity has I think no marks, but only internal grading is there. So you have to just clear it. So just submit an assignment. But main objective of this activity is to learn something, learning by experience. So this is the basic objective of the activity.
Right.
So do not panic and treat it as a fun activity only.
All right, thank you, sir. Anshu sir, people are asking on YouTube, sir, where's the attendance link? I cannot see that on YouTube. So do you want to announce something? Anshu sir.
Please repeat, sir. क्या कह रहे हैं?
So sir, attendance link people are saying on YouTube they cannot find.
Yeah, attendance is there already. More than 300 students mark the attendance. Just refresh it and use only Thapar email ID.
All right. So I'll repeat, you people have to use your Thapar email ID, and the attendance link is there in the chat box in YouTube as well as here as well. And sir, I think that is there on LMS also, right? On LMS also. If not, then Anshu sir, if you can just have that attendance link on LMS also. Okay, so in case if you're not able to access it, you can access that from LMS.
Raman sir.
Yes sir.
तो कब तक ये लिंक ओपन रखना है?
It will be open for next 10 minutes only.
Okay, so student, please mark your attendance within 10 minutes.
All right, we'll proceed with our discussion. Any questions before I start? Okay. Let us know. Just give me a minute. All right. Now that we have seen how we can, launch a basic mobile app, how we can, add UI elements to it, let me just show you how we can play around with, the multiple activities. So when I say multiple activities, I mean the default activity, which is your main activity.java, is already given by Android Studio, and how we can add more activities to it, right? Because no mobile application will have only one activity. You have to add multiple activities to it. All right. So I'll be showcasing you how we can add one more activity to our existing mobile application, and then how we can basically navigate between two different activities, right? Switching it from one activity to another activity. All right. There you go. So expand this. right click on your project, new, and then over here you will see this activity, right? So click on activity. And currently I'm just adding an empty activity. So it will give you multiple options to choose from, right? So I am creating the empty activity. So we'll name it as second activity. And if you see over here, by default, now since your activity name is second activity, so your layout name will obviously be activity underscore second, right? It's a layout file, .xml file that we talked about. And within the same package, we are adding it. So over here, you can see the second activity being added. And this is your, the corresponding layout file of it. All right. So I'll just add a text. I'll just show you how we can navigate from one activity to another activity. And yeah, one very important thing, okay, I'll talk about it later. So let's first of all add a button to our second activity. The first activity. And on click of that button, we'll navigate to our second activity, right? So I'll give an ID to it called as send it to second activity. So that's a unique ID to this button. All right. And then on click, what should happen? This method should be called. All right. So launch second activity method will be called. Add this method in your main activity. And over here, we'll write our logic to navigate to the second activity. All right. Now, this is important. If let's say you are adding 100 different activities in your project, all those activities you have to register in this manifest file. I hope you people remember when I told you that we have to add these activities. Whenever you are adding something new, you have to, add that in our manifest files as well. So if let's say you are adding one new activity, for example, over here, second activity, I have to register that in my manifest file. Similarly, tomorrow, let's say if you are trying to add an activity which is supporting Google Maps. So again, you have to register that in your manifest file. Okay, and then add an attribute to it called as parent activity is equal to main activity. So I'm just saying that the parent activity of the second activity is my default activity, which was there, which is your main activity. Give a label to it. Label is nothing but something that you see on the top at the ribbon. Save it. And then write a logic to launch your second activity and how we can pass the messages as well. So there is something called as intents. So with the help of intent, we actually launch the activity, and if let's say we want to pass some message from one activity to another activity, we can make use of this intents over there. All right. So I just created an object intent to second activity of this intent class, and first one is of course the current current context, and the second argument will be the activity that you actually want to launch, right? So I want to launch the second activity, right? So I just said second activity dot class because that's what my class name is. And then I'll say start activity, the object name, intent to second activity. Now see what will happen. So I'll launch this mobile app. This is my main activity. The moment I click on this send, it will move to this second activity. And there you see this back button, right? Why? Because the remember in manifest file I said parent of the second activity is my main activity. So just because it was a parent, the moment you click on this back button, it will go back to the main activity. So click on this, it will go back to activities_demo, which is your main activity now. All right. Now let's see how we can pass messages as well from one activity to another activity. So I'll just use a text view over here. So I'm dragging a plain text. So I'll write something in this plain text and then I'll click on send button. So that whatever message that you are writing in this plain text will go over there. So let's give an ID to it. All right, so it's an edit text that we have used. So I'm creating an edit text, message edit text. And I hope you recognize this line, right? Find view by ID, r.id.message. So basically I'm trying to access the text box UI component over here. So find view by ID and just typecast is to edit text. Now get whatever text user has entered in this UI element. Right. So I'll say string message is equal to dot get message edit text dot get text and convert that to toString. So whatever thing that you will write in that text box will actually be stored in this message, string message. All right. Then intent to second activity dot port extra. So basically, how we will be able to extract message. So there can be multiple intents which I can pass to another activity, right? So which intent I am interested in, how we can extract with the help of this, unique thing that will be passing in this put extra method. So I'll give a message name to this. Message name is like, again, a kind of identifier for this particular message that you are passing. All right. So what I'm saying intent to second activity dot put extra. So message name, which is your message from main activity, and then whatever message that you want to pass, right? So what is your message? So that is something that user will enter. And what is the name of that message? This message from main activity, right? So in my second activity, I'll make use of this message name to extract the message which user has entered in my first activity. So let's see that. So I'll go to my second activity. And whatever message the user has entered, I'll showcase it in this text view. So I'm adding the text view in the second activity.java. Give a relevant ID to it. And in this second activity.java, again, I'll create an intent object. Let's name it as intent from main object, get intent. And then I'll extract the message with the help of that unique message name. Okay, so I'm extracting the message. I'll say intent from main activity dot get string extra. All right, so this is what it is. Message activity dot message name. So this message, which we have passed from the first activity, we'll showcase that in our second activity. Again, in the text view. So get the ID, get the reference of the text view with the help of find view by ID, and then simply say tv.setText, message from main activity. So now what will happen? I'll launch my app. I'll write something over there. Okay, let me just align it to the bottom. Refresh it, run it again. So here you go, right? So I'll write a message over here. I'll click on send. I'll say message from main activity. Click on send, and there you go. In the second activity, you can see this message which I have passed from my first activity. So click on back, it will redirect you to the previous activity. All right. So it's all about playing with different activities at the end of the day. All right. So I think a majority of the things we have already done. Any questions, anyone? Let me give you the permission to unmute. Hold on. Yeah, you can ask questions if you have any in case. Yes, please go ahead. Any questions, anyone? Please do not.
Can you please explain how we generated that message?
Nothing. So it was just a simple text view that we drag and drop, right? And inside that text view, we'll write our message. So text view is basically a UI element which will allow you to write some messages inside it, right? So what happens if you drag and drop a button? It allows you to click on it. That's what the property is. It button allows you to click. Similarly, it's a property of a text view that it allows you to write something inside it. So if I have to write something in my mobile application, I'll use this thing, text view. All right. And whatever message that the user has typed in it, you can extract it with the help of that ID, find view by ID.
Okay, sir.
All right. So it's exactly the same the way we did it in our this thing, counter demo. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. So somebody asked me that, sir, how we can actually, execute our program on the physical mobile phone. So the answer to that question is, whenever you have to run your mobile application on a physical phone, all you need is a data cable. That's it. And then you have to enable the developer option. So you go to setting about phone, and over there you tap 7 times on build number. The moment you click 7 times, you tap 7 times on that build number, it will enable the developer options for you. All right. And once the developer options is enabled on your mobile phone, all you need is a data cable. That's it. So insert your data cable to your laptop, connect it, and in the Android Studio at the top, it will start giving you options automatically to run a particular mobile application on your physical mobile phone. So instead of having this application on your on your emulator, you can actually have that application on your mobile phone. All right, with the help of data cable. Fine. And another question which nobody asked me, but you can create .apk files also of your mobile application. Let's say, I mean, that is an advanced discussion. So if let's say I'm done creating my mobile application, I can create a .apk file of it, and then I can, launch, I mean, I can, what do you say, that broadcast or publish that APK file to any of the, marketplaces. For example, this Play Store for Google. Then you have, something related to Microsoft Azure. So you can like choose any of the free platforms and publish your mobile app over here, free of cost. Okay. So what exactly you publish? You publish an APK file, .apk file. So that is an executable version of your mobile application. So if let's say you want to share your mobile application with me, you will create an APK file. So that option is there in your, Android Studio. You will just figure it out yourself. It's a very straightforward option. So just click on that, create an APK file, and you can then, send that APK file to whosoever you want. And that guy will be able to use your mobile application. Okay. All right. So I think that's good enough, but just one last thing. So if let's say you want, I mean, that's how a mobile application on your mobile phone will look like. So this is one custom mobile app which involves your database connectivity as well, which I created. So if you see, we have so many different options over there, right? So one is this thing. Just count number of things over here. So one is username, then enter username. So these are two different UI elements. Then you have password, then enter password, 4. Then add user, 5, view data. These are 2 buttons, 6. Then you have this current name, 7, update, 8, then new name, 9, then enter name, 10, and then finally this delete button. Total 11 UI elements you are seeing right now on this screen. All right. So it's basically a backend related stuff that I have incorporated in my native mobile app, and I'm running that on my actually physical mobile phone. Okay. So there comes the concept of this SQLite operations. So your SQLite operations. So SQLite is nothing but a database. Now, some of you might not be aware what a database is. So database is actually a place where you manipulate your data. So when I say manipulate, I mean you insert your data, you retrieve your data from there, then you update your data in your database. All right. And that is what is reflected on your front end as well. All right. So one of the databases that comes with the Android Studio by default is called as your SQLite. SQL stands for your structured query language. All right. So the SQLite database by default comes with your Android Studio. You don't have to explicitly install that. Okay. So in case if let's say you are planning to create a mobile app with this database interactivity, then you can always leverage the SQLite operations, which comes by default with this Android Studio. All right. So I have created a simple mobile app in which if I click on view data, it will list me all the data which is present in my backend. Similarly, I can add a new username over there and then update whatever databases are there in my mobile app. So for example, if I enter a user over here, right? So let's call it Thapar. And then I'll enter a password, say hello. And I'll click on add user. So it says insertion successful. Right now, when I click on view data, so it will start showing me this new entry. You see that Thapar and hi in the end. Right. So this is the basically entry which I just made few seconds back. This is the user which I added few seconds back. Right. So view data will give you all the users, the ID and its corresponding password. Now let's say if I want to update something, I can do that over here. So I want to update a user called as Thapar, and I want to rename it to Thapar University. So instead of Thapar, I'll say Thapar space University, and then I'll click on update. So it will say updated successfully. Now if I click on view data again, instead of Thapar, it will start showing me Thapar University. I hope you can see that last entry. All right. Similarly, I can delete the entries as well. All right. So I mean, in the interest of time, I think we'll pause over here, and let me just give you a 2 minutes overview as well of this database thing also. Just give me a minute. We'll wrap up in 2 more minutes. All right. So if you count, this will be 11 different UI elements that I told you in the beginning, right? Username, then actually the text view where you edit text, sorry, where user will enter their text. Similarly, those 4 buttons followed by a few more labels and text views. Right. So these are those 11. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have added that in my layout file, of course. the XML file in my layout folder. All right. And similarly, I have created the corresponding backend file of it. So if you see over here, I have this, database helper file, right? My DB adapter.java. So I just introduce one backend file also, and then played with the SQLite operations over there. So these are the UI elements references, line number starting from line number 15, goes till line number 20, 22. And in my line number 22, I am basically creating an object of my DB adapter class. So my DB adapter will have that entire logic of inserting the data, retrieving the data, displaying the data, so on and so forth, right? So if you see this add user, view data, update, delete, these are the methods that I have created in my main activity. And at the end of the day, the core logic lies in this DB adapter class. All right. So I'll do one thing. I'll share this, the backend code for your help in case you want to refer it on LMS only. Okay, so don't worry about it. Right. So all the database names. So these are the methods which I have in my DB adapter class. Right, and it's making use of this SQLite operation. So the first line that you see over there, package, this one, the line number 6. So I'm importing that SQLite databases package. All right, and these are my data names, table name. You can choose any of the names which you like. And then finally, we have this create table command. So create table followed by the column names that you want inside your table. You can choose any of your database name as well. So I mean, these are some of the advanced level things in case if you're not aware of backend and of course mobile application as well. But try to understand it at a very uber level. Okay, so this is a DB adapter class that we have added, and it is having like all those SQL operations. So SQL is your structured query language which is used to manipulate your databases. All right, so that is what we have used over here. Forward there in the interest of time. And you call this method insert data. It will call this insert data method. So in that particular DB which you are passing it as an argument also, which is associated with your current object, you can actually insert your data in the corresponding table name, right? So this name and password is something that we are passing from the front end, which is being captured by your mobile application and getting inserted in your backend, right? And same goes for your retrieval of the data, get data, delete data, and update data. It's the same story again. Fine, all right. I think with this, we'll end this ELC session. Before we end this, any questions? I'll open the platform. You guys can unmute yourself. We all will be able to answer anything you want to ask related, relating to submissions, attendance, anything. Any questions? Any confusions? Any queries? Please go ahead. And again, kindly unmute yourself and ask this. We have given you the facility not to turn on your videos, but at least please make sure that you unmute yourself and ask question. Reading it from the chat is like really messy.
So students, this activity or this session, the recording will be shared on LMS. And in addition to this, another resources that are related to mobile app development will be shared on LMS. So you can replicate those steps. Any other query?
And instructions related to submissions, we'll upload that on LMS also, right? So
yes, within a week we will upload.
Yeah. So I would say that don't wait for those instructions for now. Just start working on this mobile application. Install the softwares that you want to go ahead with. Create a basic demo project. And yes, project template is something that we'll upload within a week. All right, so that you can see it.
Raman. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you share the LMS interface in front of the student right now? Because I think most of the students are not aware of LMS. Can we share the screen of LMS?
I'll do that.
Yeah. And of course, we want to showcase some template for submission. Okay. So you can showcase the template of the submission document to the student also, if you have that.
So Raman sir, we can do one thing. Do you have that template handy with you right now?
Sir, which
template?
tab?
The one that Sharad sir, shared with us previously.
I think it is uploaded on LMS.
It's there. Let me check it.
I do not know.
Okay, so can you just
Or I
upload
can
it?
share my screen also.
Okay.
Okay, just do one thing. Please share the screen of LMS first of all. Okay, so student may know where they can find the information.
Yes, Dr. Web.
This is your LMS. How it looks like. Okay,
This
so
is the LMS.
So these are like my subjects, but you will have your subjects associated, and over there, this is the one that we want to share with you. ELC 001, 22, 23 odd semester. Okay, so this is like the admin view which you are seeing, but for students, I mean, you won't be able to see few of the things because they are only accessible to the editors. But this is your like one-stop platform, right? So here you will see all the announcements. And
Vaibhav, open as a student this page. Vaibhav?
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Open as a student page.
So even if I switch my role to student, still just switch role to, still it will not look exactly the same, but yeah, that's how it will be, more or less. Okay, so whatever things that we'll be uploading over here, you will find it right here. Okay, so project that template also you will find it here only. So Raman sir, can you just upload it? I'll walk everyone through this template.
Please give access to Sharad sir. I think he can show you. For sharing.
Okay, just give me 2 minutes. Let me see if I can get it. Give me a minute. Sharad sir, can you share that on WhatsApp group? I'll upload it here.
Just a second. Just a second. Okay. Is it visible to all?
Yes, sir. It's loading. Yep, we can see.
Yeah, is that okay with everyone?
Yes, sir. It's okay.
Okay, so this is a kind of a rubrics or template that students can see, and this same rubrics will be available on LMS also later on. So this is a kind of formal document that a student has to submit as a submission part shown by Dr. Vaibhav. The first document. Here, what you have to do, simply you have to answer a few questions, right? Like question number 1, what is the problem statement that you're dealing with? Okay, so you have to write a few lines of statement here just to deal with the application only. Then write about what is the identification of the need, means why you have selected this application. Okay, and what is the industrial significance of this need. Then you have to find out a study kind of thing here. Again, a kind of paragraph you have to write it here, like what is the pre-existing solution for this selected application. So if you find a similar kind of application is already existing somewhere, then how your application will be different from that one, right? And in section 4, you have to make a comparative statement, like compare the need with the existing solutions only, right? Identify the required specification, means what new things you want to add something to this existing application or the new application. So you have to mention this in this section. Then find the related software and hardware that you have selected for development of this application. So at this point, you need to mention only the software and the hardware you're using for the development of this application. And thereafter, you can make some screenshot available here. You can draw some flowchart or process diagrams to indicate your working of the screens or working of your application. Okay. And in section 8, you can give some interfaces that Dr. Raman and other team has shown in front of you, Vaibhav. Okay. So after that, you have to mention the coding part also, coding, what you've done in this application designing. And lastly, you have to mention the learning part, means what you have learned from this activity. Okay, so these are 10 questions that you have to be answered as a submission part of this assignment. And the two other assignments that Raman sir told you in the earlier session is your APK file, okay, or other screenshot that you want to share as a zip file. So this thing that I want to share with the student also.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay,
and
so that's
another
all
thing,
from my side.
And another thing, you know, the size of this document, it can vary according to your problem statement. So we are not restricting ki bhai 10 page ka do ya 5 page ka you have to come up with. That size of the document can also vary depending on your project, your idea, right? So there's no restriction to that as well, no constraint. Okay, and feel free to add certain components to it depending on your project. And you know, if let's say you think that something is irrelevant to your project, you can just, you know, tweak this thing accordingly. But whenever you talk about a typical mobile application, you should have all these, 10 generic statements. All right. So I think this meeting will automatically end on YouTube as well in another 3 minutes. So in case if you have any questions, just ask me right now so that we can answer quickly. You can unmute yourself and ask. This will automatically end in 2 more minutes.
Yes, Tanveer, you have said, sir, on what idea app should be based on. It can be based on any app. Idea is open-ended.
Then one is, sir, can we only develop Android app? No. Any mobile app, any technology, any framework, any tool. You want to go with Flutter? Go ahead with it. Expo client using React Native? Perfectly all right. All right, no restriction. That's what ELC activities.
Yeah, can I also showcase the sample of it, sample document?
Yeah, just a meeting will end in like 1.5 minutes. At least you can show.
Okay, that is quite okay for
After
me.
meeting will be over, then we will discuss this later.
All right, and everything,
So I
every
think,
communication will be there on LMS space. Yeah, sure, sir.
Yeah, I think the students can see a sample document which is already filled, like a WhatsApp security system. So this is a kind of document that you have to submit, like the problem statement I have written here for WhatsApp application, and everybody is aware of what is a WhatsApp application. So I'm just trying to find out the lacuna which is existing in WhatsApp application. So what is the need of this problem that I'm facing with, and what are the challenges I'm going to sort out in this application? So by this way, you have to showcase your discoveries, your investigations, and what the things you want to mention in this document. So these are the kind of screenshot that I can design in my Android Studio, and you can showcase it here. So these are kind of rough sketches only. So this could be my existing solution, like a flow diagram. I have shown it here, how the information is flowing from one app to, or one UI to another UI. Okay. Similarly, you can showcase in section 7 the sketch diagram or the suggested changes that I'm offering to the WhatsApp application that I can add to my tools, right? So by this, you can showcase your designing. All these are the interfaces, and you can take this screenshot from your Android Studio also. Okay, so that's all about it. Thank you.
So we have to submit it through the Microsoft Word app, the PPT.
No, it can be any. It can be any editor. Yeah, the most famous one is the docs file only. So convert that to PDF and submit it.
Okay, sir.
This is a simple PDF file only. Okay.
We will share the sample format. So in MS Word, you can edit it to that PDF.
All right. I think I would like to thank every one of you spending your Sunday over here. Thanks, everyone. Any last questions before I end the session? Cool then. Thanks everyone. You people can leave. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks to the
Thank you,
ELC
sir.
coordinating team as well. Thank you everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you, please. Vaibhav?
Sir, we are live on YouTube as well. So anything you speak will be live on
Just
YouTube. So we can discuss offline.